Welcome to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. I'm your host, Marley Freigang, and I'm here to help you filter out all the bullshit and become the next It Girl. This podcast explores the reality of what it really takes to make it out there. As it turns out, it is way less Instagrammable than I thought it was going to be. I'm still very much a work in progress, but there's simply nothing else I'd rather be doing than chasing my dreams. So let's learn from my mistakes and work together to achieve our dreams with more confidence, clarity, and direction. Let's get after it. Welcome, Ilana. I am so excited to have you here today. You are the host of a very successful podcast called Seeing Other People, which helps people navigate modern dating from anywhere from dating to breakups, being single, in relationships, and everything in between. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. It's so funny. Anytime someone introduces me, I'm like, wow, like that sounds cool. Like this person, this podcast sounds really awesome. Like I want to listen. I want to know them. It still doesn't feel like it's me.
Well, I love that because I want to talk a little bit about how we got to having Seeing Other People. You worked for a really well-known dating app, and tell us about how that led us to Seeing Other People.
Yeah. So I worked at Hinge. I was their lead content creator. I was basically doing all of the social media content. I was posting videos all the time about dating, really became this on-camera presence. And for the first year that I was there, I had this rule for myself that I was never going to open up about my own dating life. You know, I never wanted people to not want to date me because of what I did. And I kind of just thought like, this is my personal life. Like it's for me. These people don't need to know that side of me. And so I kept it very surface level. And about a year in, I was going through a breakup, like literally had just been dumped in a hotel room in Los Angeles. And I had just finished crying. And I'm like, I can't just go on the story, on the like Instagram story and encourage people and tell people everything's going to be great when like I just got my heart ripped out of my chest. So I filmed this video kind of saying like I'm still like puffy, teary eyed. I'm like, hey guys, like, I just got broken up with, like, I feel really heartbroken and scared and all this right now. And I know you guys usually ask me for advice, but I'm going to turn the tables and ask you for advice or words of wisdom, just how to get through this. Cause right now I don't feel like I can. And I actually didn't post it for a while. I wasn't sure if I ever would, but a few weeks later, I think I felt a little more removed from the breakup where I felt like, okay, it does feel like this is right to post. And I did. And it was a huge turning point in my career because like the floodgates opened of people reaching out and saying, not even giving advice, but saying thank you. Because, you know, this was 2018 at the time. People weren't really being open on social media at all. And so for me to show like this side that's really vulnerable and really scary, but it's really real. Like that was really refreshing and what people needed. And it helped people feel less alone. Other people who are going through it, it helped people feel like seen and heard. And so I kind of just that catapulted me into wanting to be more authentic and vulnerable on social media. And that led me to want to start a podcast where I could do it at like more in depth and have real conversations. And so I started a podcast for Hinge and I absolutely freaking loved it and wanted to just keep doing it and do it on my own. And so Seeing Other People was born.
I love that. And tell us a little bit about your relationship with dating. Were you, a serial monogamous? Were you googly eyed? Give us the tea on like what your own experience was and like how this love for helping people with relationships came to be.
Huge hopeless romantic.
Oh, love
would
it.
come home from every date being like, oh my God, I'm in love. Like just wanted so badly to find my person. And in that, I put myself out there a lot. I took a lot of risks and I got my heart shattered multiple times. I made a lot of mistakes and there was a lot of room for me to grow. And so I think that's been what's so special about my experience where, I didn't just like, I have friends who downloaded a dating app, went on a date with one person, 6 years later, they're marrying that person. Like that wasn't me. I can't tell you how many first dates I went on. I can't tell you how many times I got ghosted, like really was put through the ringer. And so I think that is something I try and let shine through in like everything I do. It's like, I get it. I've been there. Like, I know how hard it is. I've also gone through like more traumatic relationship experiences. And so all of that has kind of combined and led me to like really connect with people because I think it's like the hard moments in our lives that really define us, and how we bounce back from those is what defines us. And just being able to connect with people on that is really, really powerful.
And now you are lovely and engaged and living the best life. So the journey, it is worth going through all the ups and downs.
1000%. Would do it all over.
Do it again. Speaking of the ups and downs, there's a lot of common dating challenges out there, especially in
Are
2023.
there?
I feel
No
like
way.
Dang, who knew? To be honest, I'm kind of in that went on one date situation, and have been with my boyfriend for 6 years, but I've heard rumors. But I've heard rumors, and that's why I'm so excited to talk to you, because I don't feel like I get to share a lot about dating. So I'm like, I don't really know what I did, guys. I have no idea. But what are the common challenges you see today? What is kind of brought up a lot to your attention?
I think a huge issue that it's not the dating app's fault, but it is an issue because of dating apps, is the paradox of choice. It seems like there are unlimited options. So people now are basically like shopping for a partner, and it's like, oh, like this one fits great, but like not perfectly. Or like, oh, I wish it had a little something more or a little something less. Like, okay, I'll go to the next store, basically. There's always someone else out there who could maybe be 1% better. And so it's really difficult for people to actually, find people and give them a real chance. And I think, we spend so much time swiping on apps too, where you're not actually paying attention to the people you're matching with or the profiles you're scanning through. Like, you're just doing it so automatically, like you're on autopilot. And I'm confident that everybody who's single and on the apps has swiped past multiple people who they could build an incredible life with and be so happy with. And even in my own relationship, Jake and I had matched on apps before multiple times and had never actually talked or gone on a date. Like, we were just sitting there in each other's matches for months and months and months and never did anything about it. So I think people could do a lot better at actually like giving care to their matches and the people they're swiping on. So I hear about that a lot, where people always feel like also, well, I think the date went well. I think they thought that too, but maybe they just thought they could find someone like a little bit prettier, a little bit smarter. And I think that really, really gets people's confidence too.
Yeah, because I mean, not only are you doing it as you swipe, you are having it be done to you as you swipe. So it's just a whole low self-esteem creating situation. Exactly. Do you find that's what causes a lot of dating anxiety? Like, where do you think the anxiety around putting yourself out there comes from?
I think there are so many places. I mean, part of it could even just be like things that happen in people's childhood or just growing up, being single for a while. I think a huge thing is dating apps is us feeling like we're not good enough. If we're matching with all these people, they're deciding not to go out with us, or we're giving our chances over and over to so many people. We're going on the dates or putting ourselves out there. And for one reason or another, these people are either ghosting us or saying that they're not interested. It really makes us question, like, well, why me? And I spent years questioning, like, am I not good enough? Am I not deserving of love? It seems like everyone else is, but apparently I'm not, because nobody likes me enough to want to be with me or to want to commit to me. And so I had so much anxiety. I had no problem going on dates. It was the second I would leave a date. If I had a good time on the date, if I had an ounce of feeling for the other person, that's when I would be terrified, because what I was used to was it always ending with me getting hurt. And I continued to have that experience happen until I didn't. But it is really stressful. It can cause so much pain and anxiety and stress. And it's unfortunate, because really the outlook that we should have is like, well, I'm great. I have so much to offer. Yes, dating is hard, but that doesn't mean I'm not good enough. It just means that this person isn't right for me and I'm not right for them, and my person's still out there. How cool is that?
Right. And I think that what you pointed out is so interesting, because I feel like a lot of people get to the same exact point time and time again. And that is right where there's an issue or a hang up. And it's like, then they'll retell you the story and it's like the same story over again. It's like the same point of issue. Why do you think we get stuck in that one spot?
Subconsciously, we're attracting people who are the same exact type of person. And this is what I went through. And you're totally right. For me, it was like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dates in, I really like you, but I'm not looking for anything serious right now. That is what I was told time and time again. And every single time I would be like, okay, challenge accepted. Like, yeah, this person doesn't know me enough yet to know that they want to commit to me, but they will. Like, I'll change their mind. And I would stay in it every time. And then like months would go by and I'd be like, so like, what's going on here? And they're like, well, like, Ilana, I told you, like, I like you, but I'm not looking for anything serious. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, maybe this could turn into something. In their mind, like, oh, I told her she's just like super chill and on board with this. I'm not super chill. I'm not on board with that. And I was just signing myself up to like continue getting my heart broken. And all the while, I was allowing that to happen. I could have changed my method. And the next time on the third date, somebody said they're not looking for something serious. I could have said, okay, totally understand. I am like, that's okay. Glad we met. Nice knowing you, and moved on. But I continued to allow myself to get into the situation where I was going to get hurt. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where we go for the same type of people. A lot of these people had similar jobs and career aspirations, and all were not willing to let anything get in the way of them accomplishing those career goals. And I knew that, but I was like, oh, but that's the type of person I'm attracted to, someone who's so driven and like wants all these things. And I'm here to support that. I can be their cheerleader in it. But those people were never going to want a relationship.
Mm. Yeah, it's so interesting. I love what you talked about with friends. You mentioned something and it's like saying like, oh, well, maybe we should just be friends. Tell us about what you tell people when they say, we should try being friends, and that's not for you.
Yeah. I mean, listen, when I was single and would hear this, I would say like, okay, cool, let's be friends. And then I'll convince you to want to date me, which never happened. We do not need friends. Like you have enough friends. Whoever's listening, you have enough friends. You don't need this new person in your life who you have feelings for. You don't need their friendship because it's just going to be painful. And so if you find yourself in this situation where someone's like, hey, like, I like hanging out with you, I'm not looking for anything right now, but like happy to be just friends, like you can be like, yeah, like, cool, that sounds great, but like put it to rest. Like, that's it. It's done. You don't need their friendship. It's going to be painful for you because you're always going to want something more. You're always going to hope that it could turn to something more. Maybe you'll be out at night and you'll text them to like find out what they're doing. If you can meet up, you're going to want something different out of the night. And because they already put it out there that they want to be just friends, they might think they can casually hook up with you. And you might think, oh, well, yeah, here's my chance. I'm going to do it. And maybe they'll change their mind. They're not going to change their mind. So no, you don't need more friends. Thank you. Next.
I love that. So you've overcome and heard a lot of people overcome dating challenges and issues. What do you think really started to change? And if you have any like examples of issues that people faced and what you've learned from your guests as well.
The biggest thing that I see with that kind of pushes a change, two things. One is communication. I think in dating, especially in the early stages of dating, we're so afraid to be open about what we're looking for, about what we want, asking them questions to find out what they're looking for. So there are so many assumptions made and there's so much miscommunication. There's so much like waiting. Oh, well, like they waited a few hours to text me. So like I need to wait double that before I text them. Like, no, if you play this game, you're never going to get anywhere. And so I think what I've seen people, do to make a change in their pattern and to really break that bad habit is actually communicate. And if they like somebody, they say like, hey, I like you, even something as simple as that is vulnerable. And that allows the other person to also be vulnerable back, or to say like, hey, just so you know, like, I really am looking for a relationship. Like, I'm curious what you're looking for. You might find out right then and there on the first or second date that person has zero interest in getting into a serious relationship in the next 5 years. So goodbye. You don't need to waste your time with each other. So I've seen that happen a lot, and I'm really proud of those people. It's really hard to put yourself out there, but there's so much payoff in doing it. And there's nothing embarrassing about saying that you're looking for a relationship. If anything, you just get your answer of if they are or not. And then you can find out if they also are, you can find out if you like them. There's no point in wasting your time. And then another thing I think is really just looking inward and realizing like all of these amazing traits about you. I think we're all incredible human beings. We all put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we're not that nice to ourselves for the most part. And we all have so much to offer. So it's really turning that narrative from like, oh, like what's wrong with me? Why am I single? To like, okay, like I'm single. I have so much to offer. I have a whole world I've built around me. I have my friends, my family, my hobbies, my passions, my pets, my joy for reading, my joy for travel, like all of these awesome things that make me me. And I get to enjoy those things on my own. And eventually I'll meet someone who I can enjoy those things with too. It's realizing that your relationship status doesn't define you.
Mm.
And I think once you allow yourself to realize that and allow yourself to celebrate all the other amazing things about you, your dating life instantly improves tenfold because you're not putting as much pressure on it.
I love what you're saying about your relationship status not defining you, because also, in the world of today, there is no bad or good things about either. Like it's just all neutral. And I think we highlight certain things about being in a relationship or being single, and we see those as good things when reality, they just are. Like they don't make you special in any way. It's just part of your life. But we love titles.
No, literally. And this is something I'll say over and over. Like, this might be one of the hills I will die on. Like, your relationship status should be the least interesting thing about you. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
So
it
true.
only has as much power as you give it.
Right. That is so true. So let's talk a little bit about building healthy relationships. Like, let's talk about what a truly healthy relationship is about. We love to debunk Hollywood on this podcast. We talk a lot about, what we think like glamorized life looks like. And like, let's talk about romance on TV and what true healthy relationships are like.
Oh my God. Like, no wonder we all end up having such horrible dating experiences and terrifying relationship experiences because of what we've grown up seeing. Like, it's, first of all, it shouldn't be that hard.
Mm-hmm.
And everything we see on TV and movies, it's like, will they, won't they, will they, won't they, will they, won't they might. Oh, but now there's this disaster and tornado and earthquake and all this stuff happening, but they love each other so much. They're going to fight for each other. They're going to make it work. It shouldn't be that hard. In fact, if it is that hard, it's probably a sign that something's not right and that it's not a fit. And so I think that's a huge thing that we kind of need to erase from our memories, that like love is this challenge and, people care about each other so deeply that they have to fight for each other so much. Like, it shouldn't be that hard. You should be trying to date people whose like values and life goals are similar to yours. Yes, you can have different hobbies and passions. You should. That's what makes it interesting. You can learn from each other. You have individual lives outside of each other, but you should both be on the same page about the big things in life. And yeah, day to day, things come up. It's not always a walk in the park. You have to work on your relationship, but it shouldn't be that hard.
Well, and it's so interesting because it's everywhere in media. We are just constantly inundated with it through music, through TV, through books, is this constant idea of like this. I mean, I don't want to say toxic because who knows, for everyone, I guess it's different. But, this idea of actually a toxic relationship is really very dramatic. And I personally really believe that a true healthy relationship should feel pretty easy. It's a lot more casual and funny. And yet we highlight that so much. Is when I was growing up, I used to love like sappy love music, and I would like daydream out the window, like, simping about this music. And one day I just stopped listening to that kind of music. And I swear my personality changed.
No, that was literally me with Grey's Anatomy. Like, it is my favorite show, but every time I rewatch it, and I don't let myself rewatch it from the beginning anymore because I actually get depressed. And I like everything about me changes. My like personality changes because I'm just sad, because there's so much sadness in the show and everything is so literally life or death that it makes me feel like, well, that's my world too. And it's not. So I don't allow myself to watch seasons 1 through 9 anymore because I just can't handle it.
So, I think it's so fair to say that we are so inundated by media, social media, celebrity culture. And like, how do you focus on figuring out what feels good to you versus from what we see in like the media and highlighted?
I mean, I think it's exactly what you said. It's focusing on what feels good to you and remembering, just because one thing works for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. First of all, your life is incredibly different than Selena Gomez's or than Hailey Bieber's. Your relationship is going to be different than Hailey and Justin because you're not Hailey and Justin. So getting so wrapped up, yes, it's fun to watch and it's fun to be glued to like what's happening, but it's not your life. It's not your world. So what's working for them, what's happening for them, the drama they deal with is going to be so different than what you deal with. And it's the same thing with your friends, even, just because something works for your friends doesn't mean it works for you. And I think we run into this a lot with asking our friends for advice, with texting, with like how to date. I think people can really get themselves into trouble because, your best friend, as much as they're amazing and they give great advice and you love them, they have a different history than you. They have had different traumas than you. They have grown up in a different way, or maybe they grew up the same way, but they didn't get their heart broken in the same way that you did. And all of that impacts the way you are. So you have to remember, like, you are so uniquely you. And that's an amazing thing. But you have to use that to your advantage and know that you know what's best for you. And you'll know when something feels right. You'll know when something feels wrong. And it's really learning to trust your gut.
It's so interesting because I feel like all the time we're trying to highlight, like, you're so special, you're so unique, but then yet we go and ask everyone for advice. Everyone else, because yeah, you're not unique enough or special enough to know what's good for you. Other people are. So it's very like an odd thing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we want to feel validated. Like, we want to feel like, okay, we're making the right decision. But it's funny, like, here's an example of why I really try and encourage people, like, do what you think, feel like what is right for you. When Jake and I were going on our first date, the day of, I hadn't heard from him. It was maybe like 3 or 4 o'clock and he hadn't like confirmed or anything. And, there are some people who are firm believers of like, if they don't confirm by 12 o'clock, like, you've made other plans. I'm like, that seems a little extreme. So I texted 2 of my friends and I was like, I am going to text him just to like confirm. And they were like, oh, don't do that. Like, as if it was like the world's worst, like as if I was going to say, like, I'm going to go jump off a bridge for fun. Like, they were like, no, like, you can't do that. And I'm like, why not? And one of them was like, Ilana, it's 4 o'clock. Like, if you think this date is happening, like, you're delusional. You're getting stood up. Like, he hasn't confirmed, like, he's not going on this date. He's not showing up at this restaurant. And I'm like, maybe he just like had a busy day at work. And they were like, no, like, absolutely do not confirm. Like, you've made other plans. You can't just wait around for him. And I'm like, well, we had the plan set, whatever. So I ignored them. I texted him and he was like, hey, sorry, I was just about to text you, like, super busy day. Yeah, like, the reservation's all set. Can't wait. I'll see you at 7. I'm like, great. And then I sent it to them and they were like, oh, Ilana, like, you should have listened to us. Like, this is so embarrassing for you. And I'm like, oh my God, relax. And I was like, I'm just going to respond, be like, great, like, can't wait. And they were like, don't respond. I'm like, what do you mean don't respond? I'm like, can I at least like heart his text? And they're like, no, he doesn't deserve your warmth right now. Like, you can thumbs up it. That's it. I'm like, what? Like, no, that's so rude. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, what? And it's so funny because I've looked back and I found those texts and looked at them with Jake. And he was like, Anna, if you ever behaved in the way that they were telling you to behave, we never would have been dating. And now we're getting married. So do what feels right for you. Fuck everyone else's opinion.
Proof is in the pudding there, because also, like, your vibe, your essence will send off something to people and they will have their own vibe and those own essence. And how are you going to know if they're actually going to gel if you take advice from everybody else?
That's kind of how I feel. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on like dating rules?
Oh, well, I was horrible. And I was not the friend for advice either. I don't believe in any of it, to be honest. I don't think I believe in a single rule, except for maybe like insanely badgering someone to go out with you. Like, then I feel like that.
Yeah, like read the room, like social cues.
Right.
Totally.
Maybe that's a read the room situation. But other than that, like, I don't really think there's rules. I've have friends that hooked up with, their long-term partners the first night they met. I have friends that have broken up and gotten back together. And like, it does not ever, there's no like, it's so different person to person. And even in my friend groups, like, everyone is so different. And, when I was single, like, I was so bad at dating. I would literally just like send my address and be like, you're coming or you're not. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I was not coy. I was not cool. I was always listening to other people's advice. And it probably is why I always got shot in the foot by it, because I didn't have any sense of who I was as my own dating individual. So yeah, I don't think there's any rules to follow except for the ones you want. And you do have to learn to ignore other people's opinions.
The
Because
ones you set for yourself.
right, unfortunately, everyone has an opinion. You just can't ask for them.
Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a way that they think is right, but the only way that's right is what's right for you. And like you could follow everyone's dating rules and sure, like get somebody to want to date you, but guess what? They don't actually want to date you. They want to date the person that you're pretending to be. And that's like, you're literally, if you follow these rules, you're manipulating somebody into wanting to be with you. And you can't put on that facade your entire life. Eventually, you're going to show them who you really are. And they're going to be like, wait a second, this is completely different than who I thought you were because of the way you've been acting since the day that we met.
Right. And then you're also going to create distrust because now they're like, I don't
Yeah.
know who you are, like at all. And we
You're just
always
playing this
want
game. Like,
right.
yeah.
Like, how can I know you if you were playing games and lying about who you were? Because now I'm so untrustworthy. Even if you can't put those thoughts together, you feel it. You're like, I don't know what's going on here. This feels sus.
Exactly.
I want to talk a little bit about being in a relationship and like communication. Like, how do you, so you've made it out, you're settling in. How do we really start to communicate and be in a healthy relationship?
Listen, communication is my favorite word. I think every single dating relationship problem is due to a lack of communication and can be solved by proper, healthy communication. I think a lot of us are afraid that if we communicate what's going on in our heads, what we're really feeling, what we're really thinking, that we're going to be rejected for it. And maybe that's because that's happened in the past. Maybe that's because in the past you haven't felt heard. So you feel like, well, what's the point of even communicating anyway? Because it's not going to do anything. But the only way to have a healthy relationship is by being open and honest. And yeah, sometimes that's scary, but the payoff is so incredibly worth it. And at the end of the day, if you try and communicate and tell somebody that something that's happening between the two of you is making you anxious or you're worried about XYZ thing, or you feel unheard, like you feel like you're not being heard when you express a certain thing, that's not going to change how they feel about you for the most part. And if it does, then that's not the person you want to be with. You know, if being open about your feelings and about how you're doing and about your fears or your anxieties is going to push somebody away, that's not the type of person that can show up for you long term. And it's worth it to figure that out sooner than later so you can, mourn that relationship, as hard and sad as that is, but then move forward and find the right person who will love you and accept you for exactly who you are.
It is such a essential part of the relationship. And without it, you are creating a false narrative for yourself, but for somebody else. And it's only going to end up in like a huge like resentment or confusion. And
exactly,
that's not worth it. Do you think it's possible to over communicate in a relationship?
I do, actually. That's a good question.
I do too.
Because there's a lot, I think, that you can probably deal with on your own. And it's this funny concept. I had somebody say this to me once, like a few years ago, and I was really annoyed by it. They're like, yeah, like whenever you text me about a work problem, I just like wait 20 minutes to respond because you usually solve it on your own. And I'm like, wait, but you could just respond and give me the answer. And then I don't have to spend 20 minutes trying to figure it out. But it's like, you do need to learn for yourself and figure out things on your own sometimes. So yeah, if you were to say every single thing that bothers you throughout the day about this person, or like you move in together and you're like, you didn't make the bed the right way, like every single day, then that's really fucking annoying. Like nobody wants that. So maybe it's like, hey, like we both make the bed differently. Let's figure out the way that we're going to make the bed together. That'll be the way we do it. And then you do it, it's done, you move on.
I totally agree. Because some of that also is like, is this a relationship problem or is this a personal problem I need to like filter out? And that there's a big distinction, because also like usually, hopefully, you get to the point where your partner is the person you trust and love the most. And then you think it's okay to trust and love and share the most with them all the time. And you still need to lean on other people, not have them carrying all that weight.
Correct. 100%. We definitely put a lot on our partners. And sometimes they like, A, sometimes it just might not be the right time. And B, they don't need to be your everything, like they fell in love with you or wanted to be with you for you and your world. And your world also includes your best friends and your family and these other people that you can still go to for these things. And as you get into a relationship, also, I know everyone's dealt with this where they've kind of lost an aspect of their friendship because this person now has a new person to go to for everything. Your friends want you to like come and vent to them and they want to know what you're struggling with and what you're dealing with and what's making you anxious. So don't forget, you can still lean on other people in your world. In fact, it's healthy to, and not just like dump on one person.
I totally agree because that you're burning everyone out. You have to spread yourself and keep your world going. How do you feel about the dreaded question, of like, we are dating and you want to move to the next step? I know this is like a big pinpoint, making it official and being boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is these days. How do you think is the most appropriate way to approach that conversation?
I think it should happen naturally. And by that, I mean, you don't have to say, what are we? Or is this going somewhere? I think just by being a little bit vulnerable and saying, like I said before, something like, I really like you, or like, I'm nervous to say this, but I like you. That just opens up the opportunity for this conversation. Then be like, yeah, I like you too. And then you can naturally talk about it. Or you can say like, I really like spending time with you. Like, I'm excited to like keep getting to know you. Again, that just opens up the conversation. I think we put so much pressure on like, oh, they haven't popped that question yet, or like asked me to be official. Like, what are we? What are we is such a loaded question and is such a scary question. And it makes it feel like it's this like huge, like you're hiking up the mountain, you're trying to get to like that peak and it's really hard and becoming like steeper and steeper and more scary and more stressful. Like it doesn't have to be this big thing. It can just be a simple conversation. Else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Excited to keep getting to know you. Like, how are you feeling?
So easy. And yet we make it so complicated. And I also, I think there are times where a certain people feels the other person should be asking, but if you already know, why don't we just ask?
Exactly. It doesn't matter. Also, like they might already think you're that's what happened to me. Jake asked me to be exclusive and then like a month went by and I'm like, every time we hung out, I'm like, okay, like maybe like he'll ask me to be his girlfriend. And he kept not doing it. And it was driving me crazy. And one morning I just like, we woke up and I looked at him and I literally said, are you going to ask me to be your girlfriend already or what? And he looked at me and was like, Ilana, I thought you were my girlfriend.
And how long did that go on for?
Like over a month. And I was just in my head driving myself crazy, texting all of my friends up the wall, being like, I don't get it. Like, why does he not? I'm confused. Like, are we at a standstill? Are things going wrong? And like, no, he thought I was his girlfriend the whole time.
Just simple.
So, like, they might already think that you're in a relationship. Don't assume. Do not ever assume, but that's why you need to talk about it. Or you could even say, like, I've had someone say, like they're meeting friends out, and it's like, oh, like, what should I introduce you as to them? And then the other one has said, like, oh, like, you should introduce me as your boyfriend.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Cool. Love that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
It's very fair to say that dating is going nowhere. And same with being in relationships. I think it's a tale as old as time. What's the kind of, I guess you could say, one thing or like one element that you should take care of personally before getting into a relationship or starting to date?
I love that question. I think it's really, kind of goes back to what we said before, like knowing who you are and your worth, because, we always hear that phrase, like you have to love yourself before you can be loved by somebody else. And I always had like a bone to pick with that phrase for the entire time I was single. I was like, that's not fair. Like loving yourself is really hard. Maybe I need somebody else to like help me see the good in me and like help me love me, or like just because I don't fully love myself, like why does that mean someone else can't love me? But I realized after like, I think the pandemic really helped me. Like I spent a lot of time with myself and learned to love my own company and stuff like that. I realized it's more about acceptance. you have to accept yourself before you're really able to get into a healthy relationship where you know what you want, you know what you deserve, you know your worth. Otherwise, you're going to so easily accept so much less than that. And it's going to cause a lot of pain.
This is a really like kind of out there question. So stay with me. Do you think that we have soulmates, or can we possibly have lives with whoever we choose to build it with?
I would love to say that we can have soulmates. I think there are a lot of people that do believe that. And I think that is so beautiful. I think that depending on the time and place that we're in when we meet somebody, I think there are a lot of people we can build an incredibly wonderful, happy, loving life with. Like, I feel like I used to believe in the concept of soulmates, but then I kind of took a step back and it's like, well, what if, there are all these life decisions that we're making? Like, there was a time where I was debating moving to LA for work, for example. And I was like, well, what if my soulmate lives in New York? And if I go to LA, then I'm missing the opportunity to meet them. Like, no, I could go to LA and meet somebody wonderful in LA, fall in love, create a life with them. Or I could go to LA and then decide to go on a vacation, meet somebody there. Like, just going, the decisions we make so many decisions that, yes, they could lead us to meeting somebody amazing, or they could lead us a different way where we meet somebody else amazing that way. So I think, as beautiful as the idea of a soulmate is, it also puts so much pressure on like every little choice that you make. And I think you can kind of create your soulmate, instead of there's one person out there that you have to find. Like, you can create the soulmate and the perfect relationship for you.
I totally like that a lot, because I think it goes back to what you were saying in the beginning of the episode, how you're talking about how your fiance was matched with you for so long. You never know who's in your matches. You never know who you've already passed. And like, if this concept of a soulmate, in the, you'll run into each other and find each other way, right, is the be all end all. Like, haven't you maybe already met them and you've just already looked it over?
What if you do, run into somebody on the street and you drop all your books, like who walks around carrying books, and you're fiddling and you take each other's cell phones accidentally, but you're currently going through a breakup and you're not ready to meet somebody, or you're talking to somebody else. And like, there's just so many like what ifs that just make it so not attainable almost, where it's like, it's too hard to rely on that. But that doesn't mean that the perfect person out there is like, that's someone that's within reach that you will find when the time is right for both of you.
I love that. You talk to a lot of people about dating, and I feel like you have a lot of tea. Do you have red flags?
So my perspective on red flags is that, similar to dating rules, there's not one set of red flags for everybody. We're all different. We all have different things that trigger us, that upset us, that don't work for us. Your red flags are different than my red flags. I think more than, the stereotypical red flags or like the funny red flags, I think it's more about how they make you feel. So if you feel instantly with somebody, you feel anxious, or you feel like unsafe, or you feel like you have to put up a front and act a certain way, that's a huge red flag. You should feel safe with the person. You should feel like, oh yeah, I can totally be myself with them. If somebody shows up to a date wearing socks and sandals, like, yeah, that's weird, but it's not a red flag. It doesn't mean there's something fundamentally wrong with their personality. They could be the most kind human being on the planet, I think that's a huge thing. People like write people off so quickly. They're like, oh, he was wearing jorts, or like he was 2 inches shorter than he wrote in his dating app profile, or said this thing, like sent too many emojis, like, ew, red flag, bye. Like, these are not things that dictate if someone would be a good life partner. They're just not. They're so superficial. And I think we can all work a little harder on figuring out like, okay, what really matters.
I agree. I feel like you're going to have a similar answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Roster or serial monogamy? Is one worse or better, or are they the same?
No, I think it's whatever works for you. Listen, I've had times in my life where I did fully have a roster. My friends and I would literally keep track. We had an Excel spreadsheet that we would keep track of our rosters, and like we would update it on a weekly basis because we needed to continue updating it, because we would see, guy B on a Tuesday and shit would go down. And then we'd see guy D on a Thursday and decide like, maybe we're not so into them, like TBD, or like they said this thing that like I really like made me think, okay, maybe there is something here. But then there's guy A who's like kind of fading out, like, different seasons of our dating lives. And then there are other times where I'm like, no, I really can only focus on one person at a time. And I want to see this through before talking to somebody else because that's how I feel right now. Or, you're just busy. Some parts of your life you're busier than other times. So whatever works for you, I'm all for the roster if you're in that phase.
Totally. And if you're in the, I'm going to have a boyfriend for a while and only one, or a girlfriend, whatever, a relationship for whatever space and then move on to the next, more power to you.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. For those that are in a long-term relationship, what is something you've heard maybe repeated that is helpful in keeping relationships successful?
The concept, we kind of talked about it before a bit, but not putting all your eggs in one basket, like really maintain your life outside of your partner. Whether you live together or are just a few months in. Yes, of course, we get so excited. We want to spend all of our time with them, but don't forget about your friends. Don't forget about your family. Don't forget about the things that you love to do that make you you. Because if, there's always a chance that this relationship doesn't work out. And you want to, not even just for that situation and in case of that, but like on a day-to-day basis, you just want to feel like you have a full life and that there are other things about you. Like going back to your relationship status should be the least interesting thing about you. Yeah, exactly. Because there should be so many other parts of your life and so many other things that bring you joy. And your partner is an added bonus and somebody you can share those things with, but they're not your end all be all, your entire life, the only person you spend your time with, because what happens if something happens to them? What happens if something happens to the relationship? What happens if they have to go away for work for 2 weeks? Then what are you going to do? Sit in your apartment and cry? No, you'll have all these other things in your life that you do, that you love, that maintain your independence, even though you're in this relationship. So I think just focusing on that, like making sure your life is still full and they're an added bonus. They're not your everything. I think it's really important.
Yes, I love that. And I love what we talked about, how your relationship status is not the most important characteristic in your life, because I think sometimes as women, that can seem like a defining factor or a title we need, but you should be fulfilling your life in so many other places that doesn't need to be the only hole that needs to be filled.
Exactly.
So I'm going to end on a little personal note. What has been the key in your relationship, and what is something you wish you had known sooner?
I think the key was early communication or open communication early on. I was a very, very anxious dater. Like it ate me alive. And Jake was very open with me from the start. After our first date, he immediately told me he had a great time and wanted to see me again. And that took away the opportunity for that voice in my head to be like, well, maybe he doesn't like you. Maybe you're never going to hear from him again. It just allowed me to feel calm and at ease, and also allowed me to feel like I could open up to him and say, like, yeah, I had a great time too. Like, I can't wait to see you. And that continued, from day one, and really took me, the most anxious person and dater in the world, made me feel really safe and comfortable and at ease. And that's just continued throughout our entire relationship. And I'm so grateful that, we started on that foot, because it just helped us build a really strong foundation where we can say anything to each other. We can have hard conversations and they don't seem like a big deal or scary or like a fight, because they're just conversations. They're just us being open with each other. And I love that. And I'm really grateful for that. Something I wish I knew sooner. That's a good question. Yeah, I think, I know I keep going back to like things we've said, but how important it really is to have that life outside of your partner. Because in previous relationships, and this is something I've talked to some of my best friends about since being with Jake, in previous relationships, I would just ditch all my friends. I had like the most boyfriend sickness in the world. I just wanted to spend every minute with them. And not only did that impact my friendships, but that impacted me, because I made them my everything. And then when it didn't work out, I was kind of left feeling like I had nothing and nobody. And I'm really grateful that my friends continued to show up for me, even though I had like deserted them. But with Jake from the beginning, I didn't do that. Something switched. And maybe it was because of that ease that I felt, where I didn't feel like I had to just spend all my time with him. I was like, oh, like, well, I know that he likes me. I know that like we're going to see each other again. I can go about my life the way I normally would. Not every single thing has to be about this person and how anxious I am or how much I like them. Like I can continue just being me the way I am. And I think that went a long way in, us growing as a couple and me continuing to be me and having that life. So I really wish I had made more of an effort in past relationships to do that, because I think it would have made the breakup and the come down from those relationships a lot smoother, instead of me feeling like I was completely at rock bottom and had given everything to it just for nothing to come out of it.
Oh, Ilana, thank you so much for your expertise. We very much appreciate it. Please tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. You can listen to Seeing Other People wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow along on Instagram at Seeing Other People, and I'm on TikTok at Ilana Dunn.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. And don't forget to check out Ilana's podcast, Seeing Other People, for more expertise in the dating world. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the show. You can also check us out on YouTube. And as always, we'll see you next Tuesday.